Welcome to I Do This for a Living, a show that questions everything about work culture and asks how we can spend as much time and energy on the things that matter as we do on the things that pay. Sometimes the things that matter pay, and we'll talk about that too. I'm your host, Serenity Bohan, a writer living in Northeast Missouri. Today's guest is Josh Smith. As my loyal audience will know, I like to let my guests introduce themselves. I don't enjoy the third-person bio at the top. Just get me to the person. You know, that's kind of how I feel about it, so that's how I'm doing it. So I'll give you a prompt, Josh, but as a very brief intro, I will only say that Josh, for me, is a kindred spirit. So welcome, Josh.
All right. So I'm Josh Smith. I also live in Northeast Missouri. I grew up a handful of years younger than Serenity, but kind of know some of the family. Her mom was very influential in my life as a writing coach and a youth pastor and a teacher, and just has always been very inspiring and pushing me to kind of pursue the things of life that matter. So that's pretty good. But I am a husband. I've been married. May 5th is our 19th year anniversary. So pretty excited about that. It makes me feel very old. I have 3 children, a high schooler, a middle schooler, and an elementary student. So we're spread out, but it's pretty fun. It kind of keeps life good. I am the IT manager for CNS International Ministries. So if you've ever heard of Heartland Ministries, it's a faith-based recovery center in Northeast Missouri, and I do all of the IT stuff. I've been doing this for many years. We like to joke that if it has a button, we work on it, because most people don't like technology, and we just kind of take care of it and make sure that everything's good and everything's working. I am also my local church's youth pastor. I've been doing that for a handful of years, about 10 years now, working with youth. I've kind of been working with youth on and off most of my life, most of my adult life at least, but positional. Been doing that for around 10 years, so that's been pretty awesome. I am also a creative through and through, so I write. I wrote my first story in like 4th grade, and it's terrible, but it has a good heart at least. And I've written short stories, flash fiction that has been published. Still kind of chasing that full-length novel, but I've got lots and lots of ideas that are in my head and in my heart, and that's kind of me. I wear a lot of hats.
Josh, that was perfect. I love that because I love letting the guests introduce themselves, because that's what I kind of want is, how might we know you? What are your various spheres? What's important to you? I feel like we got all that already, and now we're just going to dig deeper on basically all of it.
Let's dig.
I love it. Okay, so I'm going to start with you, a little different than I've started with the last couple. I want to start with my segment that I'm calling Astronauts and Rock Stars. But I want to explain that title, Astronauts and Rock Stars, is from a song by Lily Mayola that my daughter-in-law pointed me to, and I love it so much. It's called Don't Quit Your Daydream. And the song starts out, when we were kids in the backyard playing astronauts and rock stars, no one told us to stop it, called us unrealistic. Then suddenly you're 18, go to college for your plan B. What you want is too risky. Live for weekends and whiskey. We all got these big ideas. One day they're replaced with fears. How did we get here? Okay. I love that astronauts and rock stars bit. And so I want to talk to you about your beginnings. What is the earliest memory that you can think of having an answer to the question, what do you want to be when you grow up?
So one of the things that I like about your concept for this podcast is kind of the what that matters, and then like kind of what that, like your job versus your heart. Sometimes those align, and that's great. My mom reminds me that in kindergarten I wrote some letter or did some project where I wanted to be a trash collector.
Oh my God.
And a pilot and a preacher. And so those 3 things are like absolutely wild, like a shotgun all over the place. And, you know, even now as an adult, when I think back about it, I'm like, what was the things that I was like, what do you want to do? And, you know, when I think about that, like over the years, you know, people ask you these kinds of questions. You know, I think a lot of that has to do with serving. I love serving. You knew my grandfather. My grandfather was a huge influence in my life.
Oh my
He
gosh,
served
Keith.
like crazy in Kirksville, Missouri, and was just a really big influence in my life. And he always served anybody that he could. He was always giving his time, his
Did
effort,
he
his heart.
found the the food
I
what's
don't
it
know that
called?
he started it. I know that
Okay.
he worked it a lot, and so like that was something that I found myself as a little 7, 8, 10-year old was delivering food bank supplies to people in
Food bank.
trailer parks and all over Kirksville, and that was something that a lot of kids might frown on. It's work, it's whatever, but it definitely taught me that servant heart and mentality. Um, I have always wanted to be a knight. I love medieval fantasy, history, that kind of thing. And so, like, when you talk about what is the thing that, like, little me wanted to be growing up, like, he wanted to be a knight. He wanted to be truthful, to be honorable, to let actions speak, to do all of that type of thing. It's, a little bit romantic, a little bit heroic. It's kind of all of that wrapped up in one. So, kind of when I think about the pilot, preacher, trash collector, like, it's kinda all those things. It's serving, it's living, it's sharing about the gospel and Jesus and the hope that we have. It's kinda all of those things wrapped up into.
I don't even wanna move past that picture because, okay, so that was kindergarten, those
Mhm.
3. When you say night, do you think little you knew that was imaginative, that it was pretend or not?
Probably.
Yeah.
I can remember, like, reading picture books with castles and looking at siege weapons and, like, how that just medieval life and things like that, and just thinking, like, that was really cool. I understood that it was history and that it, like, wasn't real. Probably around 4th grade is when I discovered a book series called Redwall. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Mm-mm.
You've seen the animated Robin Hood with, like, where he's a fox and you got
Oh,
Baloo the
yeah.
bear. So think that. So it's
Okay.
all, instead of humans and elves and things like that, they're all animals. But it was definitely that, and, like, it doesn't center around, like, a stronghold or these wars. It's centered on an abbey. And so they were kind of monks, kind
Oh
of
my goodness.
priests, but, like, defended the land, helped people they served. There was always talk of food and feasts and all this fun stuff, but, that was a series that it's probably a middle grade series, but it's one that I latched onto probably around 5th or 6th grade that really, like, influenced a lot of how I think about life.
We bonded over a fantasy type series once as
Mhm.
well. What would that series be called? Taliesin, Arthur
Oh, yeah.
Merlin,
The Pendragon Cycle.
the Pendragon. Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved that.
That
When
one's
I
I
and I
love
was
that, and,
probably
like, yeah,
high school, I
Arthurian
guess.
legend and all that stuff is super. I love it.
Okay, so that leads great to the next question in this segment. Do you recall what you liked to do when you were 10?
Yeah, ten would have been 1994, for me. I'm pretty sure that's probably around when I discovered that I actually liked reading.
Okay.
There wasn't Netflix back then, there wasn't Blockbuster and Redbox and things like that. My sisters were the ones to first get a Nintendo system, so it wasn't technically mine, it was theirs. And that would have been, like, probably early '90s, but I think around that time I got a Game Boy, maybe 95, 96, somewhere around there, and, I had a couple friends that had them, and we'd race cars and play Pokemon and all that fun stuff together, and so that's probably also around when I discovered video games, was around then. 4th grade
This is
4th
gonna
grade
come in later, listeners.
4th grade was probably my least favorite elementary year or year of school. It was it's that transition year where you, like, start learning what you want to do versus just, "Oh, I have to do papers now. Great, I'm gonna go do papers now." It's like, I don't wanna do math. I don't wanna sit and listen to a teacher for 6
Oh,
hours out of the
man.
day.
4th
Um,
grade, huh?
4th grade was kind of my, like, mental awakening of, I would rather be at home and running around outside and
Wow,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, I know that feeling well. Okay, what would you say is your longest running daydream?
To be a writer,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And I've checked some
Um,
of those boxes, but there's still a lot more to go.
yeah, I can't wait to talk more about it. Did you ever have someone tell you what you should be?
Um, Positively or negatively? I would say,
Either way, like even someone just noticing something about you or
yeah.
whatever, however you want to answer it.
So I went to a private Christian school, and had the privilege of actually having your mom teach some English classes in high school. I had a fantastic junior high teacher, Stacy Schramm.
Oh, yes.
She was
Shout
always
out.
great at just helping you find out who you are and, like, not being afraid to, like, to do that or to be that or to have to fit into a specific mold and things like that. Um, Martha Palmer was my 4th or 5th or no, it was my 5th grade, 5th and 6th grade teacher, which is kind of when I remember, like, kinda reading that book series. I think that she even read one of the books in class to us, so that definitely was some of that influence, that the story that I wrote was around that time and kinda has medieval fantasy vibes, and it's about a boy saving a village, as one does, so but I would say that probably one of like, my biggest influences who, like, told me, like, "You can be anything," and, that's a little cliche or whatever, but, is my mother. So she's a pretty awesome lady. Um, I as a youth pastor, I get a look at the kids that we have in the church and all that and, like, try to help them I'm a seed planter. I wanna make sure that they hear the gospel, that they know Jesus loves them, and, when they move on to life or they go to college, that no matter what they do with their life, that they hopefully will remember that. And that's something that when I look back at my high school, when I was in high school, there's a lot of kids that have walked away from the church and things like that. And so I really hold, really the way that my mom raised us, me and my sisters, to not always have to just follow the rules of things, but to follow what God is saying,
Mm,
and how important that really is into, like, being a functional adult or being a functional human is, like, we can stress about a million things, we can worry about a million things and try to, like, force things to happen, but when we live our lives submitted to God and follow what it is that He's leading us to do, that's when we can have peace, and that's when we have success, and I don't stress about life, so
that's beautiful. You just named so many people that were also big influences in my life.
yeah,
Um, okay, let's go ahead and talk the billable hours, the
okay.
day job. You've told us you're in IT,
Mhm.
so we know this about you. How would you say you got there?
When I was 16 and applied for my first job, it was to Computech in Kirksville,
Oh, yes.
which, yeah, I think you had some family members that worked there, and they were guys that I looked up to. I love tech. Even at a young age, I loved computers and just the things you could do on them. And we didn't have a computer until I was like 18 because they were expensive in the 90s. But I got told no, and that was sad. But it was okay because I don't know that it was the right timing for that. My life kind of got a little upside down after high school or kind of in between high school, which we can talk about that too. But my first two jobs were actually in food service, and it was kind of the thing in front of me. So like the job that was available, and I love cooking now.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
a creative outlet that I've discovered. Again, growing up with my mom, she would always cook. She's great at looking at what you have in the pantry and just kinda making something work, and that's something that I find to be a creative outlet, and I love cooking. I love being able to take just kinda whatever we have available in the fridge or whatever and say, "Yeah, okay, it's taco night. We've got some tortillas, we've got some eggs, we've got some beans, we've got some whatever," and just kinda make it happen. So, that's kind of like the first step of that was, like, being told no. It's kinda like
Wow.
the first thing, and then so when I was 18, my family moved an hour away, and so I left the school that I had gone to from preschool up to my senior year, and so my senior year of high school, I got pulled out and
Oh,
moved to
heavens.
another private
Senior
school.
year.
Yeah, which again, like I've talked to a lot of people about this over the years, but that moment of when like that decision was kind of happening was really one of the first times that I feel like I definitely can say that I heard God for myself. And I was 17, and it was one of those that we had come out to Heartland for a church service or something, and we were driving home, and I just felt like God was like, "Hey, you're gonna live there." I'm like, "That's wild." And then, like, a few days later, my mom was like, "Hey, got something I need to talk to you about," and it was peaceful because I already knew, and it helped that transition. I think for a lot of other people, for a lot of other situations, it would have been really, really, really hard.
Oh my
Harder than it was.
goodness.
It was hard leaving
That's
friends
amazing.
and moving, but looking back at it, I know that God had a plan for me moving out here, and I've been out here, since then, and worked with this ministry, and so after finishing high school, I went to Bible college. Again, that was just one of those things that I knew that God wanted me to do, and again, not necessarily for, like, academics or for some big degree or something like that, but because obedience is important, and I knew the caliber of discipleship that was happening, and I knew that I wanted to live like people that I watched go through Bible college. I wanted that for my life. And so after Bible college, kind of trying to figure out, okay, what do I do? What's life going to look like? I got a job working with the IT department out here, which at the time was run by, I believe he's your cousin,
Jared?
Jared Nickerson.
Yeah.
Um, and the IT was going from like, hey, we're not really doing much to a pretty wide enterprise level machine that he kind of had just begun building. And so I got to be here at a lot of the founding of the IT stuff over the years, which has been pretty awesome. We've grown, we've shrunk, we've grown, we've shrunk over the years. In probably, I think around 2017, Jared moved over to work at the school to be the dean of students, and so I stepped in as the IT manager position. And so I've been doing that since 2017. It's a little different when you have to make decisions that shape a lot of other layers and involve really super technical things that some days I feel like are way outside of my reach, and other days it's like, no, okay, I think this is the right thing to do, so we're gonna figure it out. Hey, it worked, great. So,
Oh, I have so many questions. Okay. So, so one thing I like to do when I'm talking about someone's job is
mhm,
I really want this to be a podcast that really gives anyone in the world, but for sure, like high school, college kids,
mhm.
ideas about what's out there, what jobs are out there, and what it would take. So you did not necessarily need a bachelor's degree or anything like
Mm-mm.
that to get into IT. Do you think that's pretty common that people can work their way into IT jobs?
So I think IT is similar to a lot of trades. So electricians, plumbers, things like
Yeah.
that. If you can do some basic help desk level stuff, there's a lot of places that are hiring interns. You don't need a degree to help somebody turn a computer off and turn it back on again. Um, I did start trying to pursue an online degree around 2015. And that was mostly just because I wanted a piece of paper.
Yeah.
I
Know
didn't
that
need
feeling.
it for my job, but it was a thing. Hey, I've not that I like have time because we always fill all of our time, but it was one of those things where I was like, hey, I think in this season, I think this is right, a thing to pursue, this degree. And shortly after I did it for about a year, I went to it's a fully online college, and the name has just completely left my brain right now.
It's
I did not
fully
finish
online.
that degree because we had our third child, and then I got promoted into an IT manager position and did not have any brain space left for anything else.
Sure.
So I do think pursuing a degree is good for training and for education. In the IT world, certifications are king. So if you
Oh,
go take security certifications, if you want to do security, if you want to do networking, go get networking certifications. Um, you can always go buy a book or buy a course online and take it, and it might cost $100, couple $100 to take the whole course. But a certification will show that you have that ability to understand at least the functionality of things. One of the things that did keep me from finishing the degree is the IT world is always changing,
uh,
especially over the last 5 years with the introduction of AI and just a lot of that. It's just kind of shifted some things. Some things are easier, some things are more difficult. Some jobs have disappeared because an AI can do it. And I have opinions about that, but maybe that's another
yeah, we're
podcast.
gonna get to that, I promise you.
But yeah, so the way that what certifications help you with in the IT world is that you can show that you understand the concepts, and the concepts will always stay the same. So,
If someone's interested, they're definitely like wanting to go that track. I want to be in
Mhm.
IT. What would you tell them to try first? Get into a program, a school, or just try to get a job?
So if you're like in high school and
Yep.
maybe not able to find something local that you can work at or intern at or something, I would look at some certifications, some entry level certifications. There's one called A plus,
Cool.
which is very basic entry level stuff. And then there's like a security plus and a network plus. And you can kind of take it from there and step up. I have lots of friends who started with certifications and then went to an online school to get a degree, and got a job with Google shortly after. So
Well, cool.
yeah,
Okay. So you said this. You don't need a college degree to teach people to turn off and turn on their computer. So is that true, Josh? Anything that's going wrong, if we will shut down and restart, it could fix it.
99% of the time.
Oh my God, 99.
And I like to joke with people and say that computers are just like humans. When we're hungry, we need food, we need a nap, we need a reset. Sometimes you got to step out of a situation for a little bit. Computers are the same. It's
Amazing.
now there's lots of technical things and technical reasons, and I'm sure
Uh-huh.
if I was a bioscientist, I would understand the technical things of the human body. But most of the time, something gets stuck. Something's just can't get. It's stuck in a cycle, and it just can't think past it in the computer. Humans too. And we just need a reset. And a lot of times that fixes the problems. Sometimes it doesn't. As an IT guy, no matter how many times you tell me that you did restart it, that will still be the first step that I do. Um,
We know.
and a lot of the times after I'm the one that restarts it, then it works.
That was my next question. I had when I worked at a medical university, the IT guy would come and he said like it's so often it's like magic.
Hmm.
It's so often that the thing you tried works when he does it, or even the thing is not broken anymore when the tech person shows up. I shouldn't just say he, sometimes they're she's, but
Yep. And it's kind of
yeah.
like, when you're in elementary school and you're like, I don't understand this problem. I can't find the answer. And you raise your hand, and then teacher walks over and you immediately find the answer. And I don't know. That's
Yeah.
just some trick of the human brain.
It is. It is. Connectedness. It's a big part of life. Okay, so s- help us picture your typical day. What are
Okay.
three-ish things you pretty much do every day?
Sure. So I'm going to put on all of the hats because I wear all of my hats all the
Okay.
time. So I typically wake up around like 6 or 6:30, which some
Put me to
people say is
shame.
like super early. Some people people get up at like 4 a.m. and I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with you, but
I didn't know there
um,
were two 4 a.m.s
I
in a 24 I did I four two fours. I didn't
two
know there were two
fours.
fours.
I make a big pot of coffee and I go to work. Well, actually, so I this year actually started teaching a Bible class for our local Christian school for 8th graders.
Oh my goodness.
So when I started in youth ministry, I loved middle schoolers because they are raw and uncut and just like
Yes.
have all of the energy. And I might be getting old because sometimes I'm tired of the energy, but most of the time I still really like high energy and chaos, and it's fun. So I teach a Bible class until about 9:15, and then I go to work and I read emails and I see what fires there are for the day. I had somebody tell me a while ago, like, "Oh, well, you should have your day scheduled before you get there, and you should have a plan on what to do." And I'm like, IT doesn't work like that. Like, I can have a plan, but it's not going to survive past 10 o'clock.
Absolutely.
Um, like case in point today, I got back to my office around 9:30 and sat down, and we were having phone issues that I did not stop trying to fix until 4:30 today. And so today was phones. Some days it's printers. You can scroll through IT Instagram reels, and everybody has the same problems. It's kind of amazing how universal some of the same problems are. Sometimes we get to work with accounts that's like financial record stuff. Sometimes it's K through 12 school stuff where they're just trying to connect an iPad to a TV to play video.
Mm.
Um, Sometimes it's talking about, again, the dangers or the benefits of using AI with work. We are a medical facility because we're a recovery center, and so we have to talk about HIPAA sometimes and some of those things. So, kind of knowing what data we have where and how it's being protected and encrypted, and a lot of that stuff's when you think, oh, well, he lives out in the middle of a cornfield and he does IT. There's a lot more than just making sure that printers are printing and phones are ringing.
Yeah, a lot more.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta write down a question I have about AI that I'll come back to when we get to the AI thing. Okay. How about one thing about your work that matters?
So I did talk about that I work for a recovery center. And that's something that I didn't like look for. That's not something that I was like 17 thinking I want to help people with drug and alcohol problems. And even at 25, having worked here for a while, lived here for a while, it wasn't necessarily on my like, this is my ministry bucket list or anything like that. Um, but helping somebody print something or helping somebody not have to worry about HIPAA licensing because I've got it taken care of, or making sure that phones are working, is helping people find treatment, find recovery, find the gospel. The ministry here has gone over a lot of changes since I've been here over the last 20 years. And we're really getting more laser focused in how we can practically help people. When I first got out here, a lot of it was getting people to work, keeping their hands busy, and I do think that that's beneficial. I think it's beneficial, especially when you have something that is overtaking your mental capacity. Doing something is helpful. And now they've kind of shifted to a lot more. I don't. It's classes. It's like therapy. A lot of the staff here have gone and gotten degrees for counseling and things like that, and that's been super cool to watch, kind of from the outside, because I'm doing IT. I'm not like involved in day-to-day stuff. But the graduation rates of our programs have skyrocketed or going up. There's constantly people calling and asking for beds if we've got any space available. And the truth of the matter is, like, I'm sure probably every listener, every person hearing this probably knows somebody who's struggling with
Mm.
drugs or alcohol, or who have lost a family member, lost a kid, lost somebody. And I mean, you just go Google the statistics of how deep drug and alcohol is in our culture, and it's pretty crazy. And so being on the IT side of things, that is something that I don't necessarily think about it as a ministry, but I know that it really is, because I'm working for a nonprofit. And so, like, I know when I get to go out and network and talk to people, being able to talk about, hey, I work for a nonprofit, like, that's a cool thing to be able to say,
Yeah.
ministry wise, that I get to do. And teaching at the high school helps me get in with the youth a little bit more, and to help them learn a little bit more about what it is that Jesus teaches us instead of just culture. And so, yeah, so that's sort of computers and tech help other people not have to worry about that kind of stuff.
I love it. That is so cool. I love asking that question and seeing. I think some of us can find a lot of meaning in the direct work we do, and some of
Mhm.
us, it's really more tied to the bigger picture of what we work for. When I worked for a medical school, I was so proud to work for that school. I did not maybe love the job that I
Mhm.
had there, the role I played, but I was just so proud of, we were putting great doctors into the world, and it could make me so proud. So
Yeah.
I really get where you're coming from there. Um, do you get the Sunday night blues?
Oh, like where I don't wanna go to work on Monday?
Yeah, or just dread the week in general?
A lot of the time.
Yeah, me too.
Can you have Tuesday night blues and
Yes,
Wednesday
I
night
know.
blues
I
and
I one time I one time realized, like, okay, so I get the Sunday night blues, then I face Monday. And typically, a few hours into Monday, I can kind of sometimes be like, "Oh, I got this. I'm
Mhm.
handling it." And then my reward is Tuesday.
It's Tuesday, right, right.
I had to do it again. I have to drum it all up again. Okay, so good to know. Let's not dwell on that.
Yeah.
It happens. I Do you have any tricks for it?
Um, there's not really another option.
That's so practical of you, Josh.
I have a wonderful, loving wife who tells me, "You have to go work so that we can have money," and she works too. She actually works for our local Bible college in the administration office, and she's coming up on her first year of doing that. But we're the days we flip flop so much. I think being a husband is something that I've definitely been called to, and I love being married. Like I said, we'll hit 19 soon, so it's fun. But the days where I'm the one who's bemoaning the Sunday night blues, or I don't want to go to work on Monday, she's the one who's like, "All right, nope, here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we got to do." And then the days where she's like, "I don't want to go to work today," typically I'm like, "Well, then stay home," because that's
That's
just what I
good.
do. But
The
we definitely
seesaw of
we flip flop,
marriage.
and
Yeah.
usually it's when both of us are down in the dumps together that we both immediately realize, okay, we can't stay here. We got to move on.
I know the feeling so well. Okay, what is something you wish about work?
I wish that it was stuff that I can accomplish all day long, but then you're
Yes.
never challenged, which is tough.
I guess. Yeah,
So
I'm with you
I'll,
though.
I'll take this phone problem today. So this is a phone system that I don't really know how all of it actually functions. And we've been having this issue. Phones just kind of aren't working here and there sporadically. And I hate sporadic issues because then it's not consistent and then you can't use
You can't
logic to
identify.
find
Yeah.
where the problem is. And so I worked on it a bunch today. I tried this, it wouldn't work. And I tried this and it wouldn't work. And then I actually used AI to talk through the problem. And so this is where I think AI is very beneficial because if you use it like a glorified Google search, then that kind of works. And so being able to say, hey, this is the problem I'm having. And it's like, okay, I understand that. And here's this thing to try. And I'm like, I tried that. It didn't work. Okay, well, then here's this other thing. And that to me is no different than like me Googling it and just looking on Reddit or posting on Reddit and asking people what the problem is. And so once I kind of like was able to figure that and found the right settings and the right document on, okay, this is how you set that up. Then it was like instantly everything worked, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I know how to do
Wow.
this. And so that was pretty cool. Like that was one of
That's a
those moments that
success
like
story.
I wanted to find somebody to high five to say like I fixed it, I solved it, I did the thing. So
Yeah, that is such a relief. I know what you're saying. I love that wish actually because for me, definitely some of the Sunday scaries
hmm
come from I'm not going to be able to do it. Tomorrow,
hmm
a challenge is going to come that I actually won't be able to overcome. And there's such a balance. You're right, because you don't want
hmm
to be bored, I
yeah,
guess, because you can handle anything perfectly. But man, it's stressful when you don't know if you can
yeah,
handle the job or if you haven't been taught the job well enough or you just don't have
yeah.
the resources. Um, since we both kind of get those Sunday night blues, I got to tell you this thing that happened to me. I just listened to another podcast with a time management expert, Laura Vanderkam. And she said, it was on the Mel Robbins podcast. She said, there's 168 hours in a week, 7 times 24. We sleep however much and we work 40, let's say.
hmm
So we actually have, I don't know, 68 to 72 ish hours that aren't sleeping or work in a week.
hmm
And I mean, I had to do the math like 4 or 5 times myself because it doesn't feel true. And I'm wondering if it's because 5 out of 7 days we're building our life really around getting to work, being at
hmm
work. It's really built around the job.
hmm
But I wish I could figure out how to feel and see those those free hours more.
yeah.
Um, which we're going to get to that because we're going to talk about. Let's ask one more work question.
Okay.
Does your workplace do anything particularly well when it comes to employee engagement, work life balance, or otherwise making you want to keep working there?
Um, I think that there are seasons where I think no, and there are seasons where I think yes. That's kind of the thing, I love technology and I love doing this job, and kind of like I even said, like probably at 25, 20, 26, even like 32, I didn't necessarily catch the ministry aspect of what I did with my day job. And so that is something that I would say that like obviously I work in IT, but it's for a bigger picture. We do have a good, I don't want to say relaxation, but like a good focus on ministry. That if I'm working and somebody's having a hard day, like there is zero issue with me taking out 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes and like praying with somebody or
I love that.
whatever needs to happen like that. If somebody, hey, somebody's on the spot needs to just go for a drive and go get a Coke or an ice cream or something like it's gonna be okay. It's pretty flexible in like my job obviously has to get done, but if I need to go home because I have a sick kid, it's pretty flexible in that. Um, I'm able to teach for an hour every day
Yeah.
um, for this middle school class, and that's something that if I worked for like a big corporate job, they probably wouldn't care. And so I
Yeah.
do think that this job here at CNS, they do a good job of kind of giving people room for, and I don't want to use your buzzwords, but like for your calling or your gifting or things like that to be able to shine through.
That's
So
great. I love that
yeah,
answer. I love that answer, and I love the first part where you honestly said, "Some days I doesn't feel like it,"
yeah.
because that's just gonna be true, but I love that. Okay, so let's go to a section, maybe it's me.
Mm.
Josh, how would you answer this question? What do you like to do?
Um, I think that changes as well. I love to travel with my wife. I'm learning to travel better with my children. As they get older, it's easier to travel with them, and I know that they appreciate the moments more than when they were 5 and 3 and things like that. I play video games. It's kind of my chill, where I know that I can sit down and I can tackle all of the tasks that are in front of me, and it's not anything that's overwhelming and things like that. And but it's relaxing for me to be able to play video games. I read. I write. I was talking to somebody earlier about that, like just kind of personalities and things like that. And I'm a pretty easygoing individual. And I was kind of telling them that I feel like kind of the negative piece of that is that I do whatever's in front of me. And so
Mm.
I tend to be very busy because I have lots of hobbies because I like to have fun. And 99% of my hobbies have other people involved. So we play this board game that uses miniatures and you paint them and you put them together and it's Star Wars and I love Star Wars. But games take like 3 hours. And so if you're going to play a couple of games, you're busy for like seven
This is
hours.
a physical board game
It's
or
a
it's
physical game. Yep. It's called Star
wow.
Wars Legion. So a lot of like Warhammer is another big one that a lot of people play, but this is like the Star Wars version of that. So I've got a group of guys here, about 7 or 8 guys that play this, and
Oh
we've
my gosh.
invested lots of money and lots of time into painting these little pieces of plastic and playing games. I also play Dungeons and Dragons with a group of people, so D&D has been popular for a
D&D.
long time. And
Yeah,
for me,
way longer than
yeah, like the
some people
70s.
know.
So, and before that even, but to me, like that's storytelling. It's collaborative storytelling, and so it's super fun. Good group of guys that we laugh and we have fun and tell stories together. Um, so I don't know if that kind of helps or
Oh,
answers
yeah,
a
that
little bit.
totally
Okay.
answered the question. Um, you
Now
sound a little
I'll cut in and I will say that if I could choose to do any of those things full
yeah?
time, it would be traveling with my wife.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
Also, you married an Aussie, right? Or is she
Nope.
New Zealand?
She is from New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Yep.
Okay. Have you been there more than once?
No, we went there one time, so before we had kids in 2010. There is a big plan because next year is our big 20th anniversary, and my son turns 16 this year. So there's kind of a plan to celebrate a whole bunch of stuff and maybe try to go next year.
Oh, I hope so.
I've got an Excel spreadsheet with budget and numbers and some plans and things like that kind of in the works. So yeah, we want our kids. We also have like always wanted to take our kids, but wanted them to be old enough to appreciate the experience. So
Yeah,
at 16, so next year it'll be 16, 14, 12. That's definitely great ages to travel and to
absolutely.
experience and stuff that they're gonna remember forever. So, but
I yeah, okay. I was gonna say, yeah, I had Australia's far. New Zealand is far. It feels
it's
like
very
they're in a
far.
different time. It is time travel to go there.
And my wife loves to go visit beaches because she obviously grew up there. So she moved away when she was like 8. And they were missionaries in China for like 2 years. And then through a connection through agriculture, of all things, they moved to Missouri and helped start the farm out here at Heartland way back in the
Oh
day.
my goodness. I didn't
And
realize they
so,
helped start it.
so the fact that I was born in Wisconsin, moved to Kirksville, and then somehow ended up out here, and she was born in New Zealand, moved to China, and somehow ended up, it's like, who knows? Life is wild, but
It's wild
yeah,
when you can see it. Some people don't see
yeah.
how wild it can be. But so do you still stream Minecraft?
So I took a little break towards the end of last year, but I've been doing a Minecraft YouTube channel for almost 3 years now. So Minecraft's just one of those games that if you catch it and you understand it, that you can just tell stories and you can do anything with it as a game. So before I was doing my like the YouTube stuff, it was just kind of, it was one of those chill relax games. I can put on an audiobook and I can just kind of explore, build castles, build things and have fun with that. It's kind of like playing with Legos but on your computer.
Video.
But then some of the writer friends that I've met over the years also really liked doing the same thing and kind of maybe, I mean, there's a thing on YouTube called survival multiplayer servers where they get several people together and they all share a world so you can all play together, and they build crazy amazing things and they build shops and they do trade and commerce and they tell stories and all this really fun stuff that you're like in a video game, but like, yeah, I mean, it's human connection. It's all of that wrapped up in one. So yeah, so we started. I joined some friends, and we've been doing that for a few years now. We just recorded our finale for this
Oh
season. So
my.
and like there's seasons in the show,
Oh,
and so
cool.
it's
Can
pretty
you
fun.
tell people where to find you? Can
Absolutely. So if you go to
Okay.
YouTube and you look up at Mr. Disco Man, which is the handle that I use for a lot of my gaming stuff. Disco was a phase in middle school, and still, I started playing the bass because of it. So it's pretty cool
Love
still.
it. And he
Sometimes you
plays
have
the
to
bass.
and
This
I play the
has to
bass
be the
musical.
most packed
I have too many
episode so
hats.
far.
Yeah.
I love it for stuff that you do, which is just making me come alive. I'm
Hmm.
loving it. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what creative projects do you have going?
Okay.
Obviously that one.
Yeah. So the
What else?
Minecraft YouTube thing is something. Um, I started recording so with some of my writer friends. We'll kind of dive into that, I'm sure, here in a little bit. But
Yes,
with some of my
please.
writer friends, I started doing D&D sessions with them. They live all over the country, and so like we don't physically meet except for at a conference every year. That again, we'll talk about here in a minute. But we started playing D&D at this conference, and that's fun. Telling stories, especially you throw writers into something, and the creativity level just amps up a ton. But right now, live play D&D stuff is super trendy. There's some really big groups out there called Critical Role that have been doing this live for several years. So much so that they did a Kickstarter and have an animated series. It's a little adult, so be careful with the content warning there. But so we recorded some D&D sessions, and those are up on my YouTube channel. You can watch that there. Um, Probably have to dive into Realm Makers now, into the writing conference, because that's part
Okay,
of the creative projects that I've got going on.
do it.
So around 2015, when it kind of felt like life was going all over the place, your mom introduced me to a writer just by like, hey, you should go check this guy out called Ben Wolf. And he was a Christian, and he was writing fantasy, so what's called speculative fiction. So that's science fiction, fantasy, horror, dystopian, like kind of any of the non general fiction or historical fiction. It's kind of like all of the fun stuff. So he was writing that, and he was gonna be at this conference
How did
called
mom know?
Realm Makers. I think he spoke at something in Omaha.
Okay.
I don't know if it was the Omaha Christian Writers Conference or something, but she had seen him speak at something. And around the same time, I had just really started learning about Christian fiction, that there was this world of books, and it felt like, hey, there was 5 or 6 at this time. Like, not very many books, but there was a few books that were written by Christians, and they weren't necessarily overtly here's what the gospel is in a fantasy world, but just had hope and grace and peace and love and all of that in there. And it wasn't full of adult content, and that they were clean, and it was written for adults, and it was good. And so it was kind of one of those spur of the moment. The conferences was like a month later, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to sign up for this thing. Literally don't know anybody. It was in St. Louis, so it's a short drive. I reached out to Ben because he was going to be at the conference, and he was like, awesome. Do you have a roommate yet? I'm like, I don't even know what that means at this point. And he's like, well, I've got 2 guys that are looking for another roommate. They've got spots in the room. You guys can split the room. How do you feel about that? I'm like, I don't care. I'm an extrovert. I have 0 issues, like jumping right into that.
An IT guy who's an extrovert.
I know.
Josh, you are a riddle.
I know. It's wild. It's yeah. It's how God made me. We'll just put it there.
I love it.
And so I attended this conference, and the first night that I showed up, I'm wearing my Captain America shirt. And the guy that I meet first, his name's Jason Joyner. He's my roommate, and he is also wearing a Captain America shirt. And it was like kindred spirits immediately. Jason's he's like 10 years older than me. He's been writing for a while. Some of these people that I had seen their names on books, and I'm like, these are real authors. He starts talking to this lady named Morgan Bussey, and I'm like, you can't talk to Morgan. She's an author. Like, you don't talk to authors, you just read their stuff. And he's like, no, here, come meet her. And I got to meet all these people who I had started reading their books, and like this whole world of you can glorify God through your art, like really opened to me for the first time, where I realized there's people who are looking for the content that I like, that I write, that I have in my head and in my heart. And so that was 2015, and I have only missed 1 conference since then. And out of that conference, so Jason and I have become really good, like real friends over the years. And we started a writing group together, and there's 9 of us. And we call ourselves the Writers Fellowship because the Fellowship of the Rings has 9. There's 9 people in the fellowship. And our numbers have changed here and there over time. But we started pulling other like-minded people, and not like people who were just at the same level even. So like I've never published something. Jason was just publishing his first trilogy, which is about Christian superheroes. Which is awesome. It's a young adult. It's really good. We've got a middle grade writer who writes books for reluctant readers, like specifically boys. They're great. It's called Iggy and Oz. It reminds me a lot of like Phineas and Ferb kind of vibes. These boys that get in trouble in their cul-de-sac all the time. Super, super great. One of the people, her name's Becky Dean. She writes for Athon Books, which is a big publisher. She was one who's like, I'm never self-publishing anything because I want the big 5. I want traditionally published.
Wow.
And so she held to that for a long time and has sold several books now to traditional publishers because she stuck at it, and she's an excellent writer. And then we've got a guy named Steve Raza who is so prolific. He's been published through several Christian publisher houses that are pretty big, and then he's self-published a bunch, and he just does not stop writing. He writes all the time, and someday when I'm an adult, I would like to be like Steve. He's awesome. So we've had this writing group. We've kind of been we meet every month, and we would talk about, hey, what personal projects are we working on? How can we help each other? How can we pray for each other? How can we help market for each other? And that kind of a thing has been really awesome for me as a non-published author to like see and really be a part of, and to learn a lot that I never would have learned to the level that I have on my own to have this group. Several of them have done Kickstarters for their books. And JJ, who's the middle grade writer, he's kind of our idea guy. He always is like, hey, I've got this idea. And we're like, all right, buckle up. Here we go. So we did a podcast for a while where we had different authors on, and we talked about just secrets of the writing world and shared a lot of that. And that was really cool. He's done a podcast called Geeky Dads Talk About Geeky Things.
Fun.
And that one's been super fun. We'll get on there and talk about G.I. Joes and Star Wars and all kinds of stuff. And it's really fun. He keeps doing that. He's on Substack. So I don't know if you can link to that, or we can
Yeah, definitely
talk about that. But a couple of years ago, he came to us and he was like, "So I've got this idea to do an anthology." And an anthology is a collection of short stories. And he was like, "I think that we need to come up with a central idea, and then each of us write a short story in this world or about this event that happens." And so, after a couple of meetings and some talks together, we came up with Eon City Burnout. And it's an anthology that's cyberpunk, so it's like sci-fi, but instead of being like across planets and things, it's just in like one super high-tech city. So people have like cyborg implants, and there's flying cars and talking cats and like all kinds of crazy stuff in this city, and it's protected by this energy shield to keep harmful solar radiation out. And the inciting incident in the first prologue is that something happens and the shield fails. And so the city starts getting washed by EMP waves, and EMP and technology does not work well together. So cars start dropping out of the sky,
Oh,
people's
wow.
tech stops working, people who had augmented eyes, all of a sudden they can't see. And
Oh,
so the inciting incident is, okay, well, how then do we each write stories about people who live in this city who are having to deal with this fallout? So that was super fun. We put that on Kickstarter. We funded in Kickstarter and sent physical copies to people. It was so weird last year going to a conference and having people hand me a book and say, "Will you sign this?" It
oh,
was like, what is
Josh,
happening right now?
the
This is so
dream.
weird. So that was super, super awesome. We are actually working on book 2 right now. So we're going to have a Kickstarter launch in like August. And so I can make sure that you get that link if you want to see what that looks like.
Definitely.
So yeah, we're super excited. They've each done different Kickstarters. It feels like, I don't know if are you familiar much with like authors and Kickstarter?
Not much.
So do you know what Kickstarter
Yeah.
is?
Mhm.
So it's crowdfunding. A lot of authors are now using it kind of just as like pre-sales. So they'll start pretty low with like $500 or $1,000 or something like that to like is their goal, their funding goal. And you can buy the ebook early for like, and not every author's going to do something different. And I think that there's been a shift in Kickstarter for authors over the last couple of years, where rather than just saying, well, here's the paperback and here's the ebook, it's, well, here's a special edition hardback that this is the only place you're going to be able to buy that from. And I don't know if your FOMO is quite as much as mine, but I need the thing that I can only get this one time, and even if
Yeah.
it's $40 or whatever, like it seems like that's been happening a lot more. So I've had some other friends outside my writing group who have had some Kickstarters that hit ridiculous numbers because one, they have good following, they're telling good stories, but then they're doing these like kind of more collectible thing, and you'll be able to buy the paperback on Amazon. But if you want this, have you seen like the spray coated edges where the books edges of the books are like painted and they're
Yes.
like shiny and they're
Yes.
golden, and yeah,
A beautiful
those are
book. There's nothing like
beautiful.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna have to send me all the links when this is over. I'm gonna have so many links. Um, I wanted you to talk about that
Yeah.
because as I've told you, it really is a lack in my life.
Mhm.
I have wanted to be in that writer world too for so long, and I thought I was almost there, not really. And the thing I've really never had is a tribe.
Mhm.
And so I love that about you. I'm inspired by it, and I just have to I'm just going to keep thinking about that, how I can find mine, because you've definitely found that. And it's
Mhm.
very cool too that your tribe came up in this conversation before we were talking about writing books, because they
Mhm.
truly have become your friends and you have these all kinds of shared interests with them. And I love that. Here's a question for you. That is another thing that sort of haunts me and makes makes me think. Do you have settled how you want your kids to see you?
Ooh. I think that has been something I didn't think much about until they kinda hit 10, 11, 12 years old, where they were, like, semi-functioning humans. Like, um, like, I talked about my love for cooking, and so that's something that I've made sure my kids know how to cook eggs. They can make ramen, they can grill cheese, they can make cookies, and, like, that's something that, like, I find important because I
Yeah.
think you should be able to provide for yourself other than just peanut butter and jelly.
Mhm.
Now, peanut butter jelly's fine. But my 8-year-old can scramble eggs. She just did one tonight because she was hungry right before bed, and we're like, "Go cook an egg." And like, I have zero issues with her using the stove and using a pan. Now, cleaning up after herself is a different story, but we'll get there.
You'll
Um,
get there.
but that's something that like when I think about how I want to represent myself, I think it's that you just try stuff. So I don't know how to do this. Okay, well, think about it.
It's great.
Don't just jump in blindly, but think about, okay, well, if I'm hungry, what can I do? Okay, well, we have eggs in the fridge. We have pasta in the pantry. We have XYZ. Okay, well, can I do this? Yes. Okay, then try it. See what happens. Let's provide a safe space for that, whatever. But let's try it. My son just started working. He entered the job world this year, which is crazy. Um, but there's like a few times where he's like, well, um, I have to go to work late today. Okay, did you talk to your boss? Because that communication's important. You can't just not show up to work. Like you have to communicate. Yes, it's across the lake and it's a little scooter ride to get to work, but like this type of communication is important. I love communicating. I'm an extrovert. I am a good communicator, I believe, and so that's something that when they're having a hard day and they're not able to communicate, that I try to get that. Okay, let's take a deep breath. Let's think about it. What is the thing that's making you upset right now? Let's get to that. And so, kind of finding that center again. I was raised by a single mom with 2 older sisters, so I'm probably a little more in touch with my emotions and how that works than some men, but that's okay. But that's something that I want them to not just go through life just kind of doing whatever is right there, but like being intentional about it and taking chances and trying things and not just sitting and consuming all the time.
And
Cause
yeah, I feel like they can totally see that, you modeling that. I feel
yeah.
like you model that so well. Um, okay, when it comes to creative work, do you think we're in an era that is harder,
Mm.
easier, or the same as it has been in the past to be creative and put stuff out there?
I would probably lean towards the same, but I think that the difficulties are different and the ease is
Mhm.
different.
That's
So like we talked
brilliant.
about AI, and I think people who make AI write their stories for them is not a good thing. And AI art is great for inspiration, but then I think that the way that AI has been developed over the last several years with stealing information and the fact that they've proven multiple times that there's just taking whatever's out on the internet, and even some companies have like literally pirated books that is illegal, and that's
Always
dangerous.
illegal,
Like
Joe, as they say on Friends.
uh but but AI is great as a glorified Google, and so if you need to get an idea and kinda solidify it, I think that's a great tool. I think that's a really good tool, but I think there's a pretty big danger, and I think you're already seeing AI slop in Kindle Unlimited
Mm.
and kinda all over where people are like, "Well, I never would have been able to publish a book without AI." Well, I don't believe you. I think you didn't take the time. Time is the biggest difficulty of being a creative, is
Oh my
it,
goodness,
and that
true.
is why I don't have a published book, is because it takes a lot of time. Doing the short story that I did for Eon City, um, was hard because I wrote it and then it was like, well, I need to go fix this. Okay, well, I need to go fix this. I need to go fix this. And then I sent it to one of my friends and he's like, nope, it's perfect. We're done. And I'm like, okay, okay. And like that was really like I've published some flash fiction and stuff before, but this was like kind of more recently with the knowledge that I had gained over the last several years of like you have to at some point send the story out. It has to leave your hands,
Yeah.
and or else it's just gonna sit there forever. And so I think that's probably still continues to be the biggest issue with being a creative, is that we have to take the time, have to sit in a chair, we have to write, we have to believe that it's good enough. I think that's a pretty big danger of once we create something, we are our biggest critics. We're gonna nitpick everything, where the danger of AI is, well, AI wrote it, and so now it's done. Where
Mm.
it's like, yeah, but it's not good. or it doesn't make sense, or there's all these different things, or whatever that's wrong with it. Um, and so I think in the day of technology that we're in, good enough is okay, but it's not. Like we see that a lot with a lot of the AI and the technology stuff. Now, I do think that technology is a tool, and it's just how we use it. And if we use it responsibly, I think it's fine. But I definitely think that the pros and cons are probably still pretty much the same as they've always been, of finding the time, making the time, and then knowing that your work is good enough and submitting it and sending it out there.
That is seriously such a smart perspective. I honestly, I think I tried to guess. I do this. I'm
Yeah.
learning. Tried to guess how you would answer, and I never would have picked that one. It's pretty much the same, and that's why. Is because the
Yeah.
harder things are still hard, and
Yep.
it's so true, that time thing. I love it. Okay, let's wrap up, even though I so do not want to. This has been such a great conversation, Josh. I
Awesome.
am so glad I reached out to you. I knew you were just what I wanted for this show, because you're just fully alive. You like your job, but you have all of these other things that you love, and you make time for them. Is there anything Has anything tripped your trigger in this conversation that you might want to give more time to, or that you might want to adjust?
Um, I will say that, like, kind of as I was like prepping my own brain for
Yeah?
what we're gonna talk about and all that stuff, because I do that as well. I think a lot of people do. One of the things that I was thinking about was I actually, so it's I would say that it's probably a repeated struggle. So I was listening to your podcast with your husband tonight, and it reminded me of a repeated struggle that I have had over the years of balancing capacity, so how much we can do with gifting and calling, and then good things. So last year I actually sat in my pastor's office and asked him, okay, what is the difference between our gifting, our calling, and just doing good things? Because we're called to do good things. And he was like, uh-huh, that is a tough one. And he
Was this
talked
my
about,
uncle?
it was Chris
Okay.
Palmer, and he's an amazingly wise man. And he and I have had this conversation, or variations of this conversation, over the years. Capacity is a thing that I think that I tend to struggle with, because like I said, I'm kind of go with the flow, whatever is going on, and so I do stay very busy. And so then being intentional about time with the kids, time with the wife, make sure that I'm resting, those kinds of things. I think that I'm fairly balanced at that. My wife helps keep me balanced on, you've played D&D 4 times this week, maybe no, balance that out a little bit. But the one of the things that he helped me think about was that our gifting is part of who God made us, of our identity. And for me, some of that is being a communicator, and that can be seen through storytelling. It can be seen through being a youth pastor. It can be seen through working in IT, where I have to communicate complex, complicated things a lot of the times. Um, Now, that doesn't mean that I'm called to always work in IT or to always be a youth pastor. But
Mhm.
for my season, for what's going on right now, that's where God has me. And our gifting is kind of always the constant. The calling is the thing that kind of changes in seasons of life. Not everybody does the same job for their whole life, and that's not something that I've expected to be doing IT forever. I don't know what that next piece looks like or whatever. And again, pays well, does well, and I've got great job security because there's always IT problems. Um,
Always.
but then, like, doing good things is spending time with friends, playing video games to kind of like relax at the end of the day, um, giving where we can give, serving where we can serve. And those are kind of like the in between moments where, like, we're always doing those as well. And sometimes if something has to give, typically that's where we're going to give from. Okay, well, we'll take some from that so that we
Uh-huh.
have time more for our current calling. And you talked about like the hours in the day and things like that. And so it's like don't have a ton of time in our days, that fills up so fast. And so I typically kind of just bounce from one thing to the next. That's why I joke about wearing all these different hats, is because there's just always something going on in life. And um, I haven't burnt out yet. And I know, and and I even joke about that, but like my stress levels are great, my blood pressure is great, like life's good. Um, and I truly believe that like I'm doing what God's asked me to do, and I'm living in what God has gifted me to do in being a creative and writing and things like that. However, I definitely feel like the writing thing, like I've been feeling over the last probably couple of years, and this is doing the anthology with my writing group really helped push some of this. But like I'm not getting younger. Like I'm not old, but when am I gonna take the time to put books out and to really write and to focus on that and to give that the time that it needs? Because if I just piecemeal it and take one bite at a time, eventually I'll get something
You
done.
will.
But if this is something that I believe that I'm passionate about and that God wants me to do and that I have these amazing complex stories in my head, then I have to take the time
Mhm.
now, and I can't just put it off in 10 years and 15 years and 20 years. Um, and so balancing that with I've had conversations with other writers who are a little more seasoned, a little older than me, who have been like, "You've got young kids in your house still. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay to be a dad. It's good to be a dad,
Yeah.
and it's good to build your career and to work and to let your family grow." And so, kind of still living in that balance of living life and just kind of taking things as it comes and feeling the at some point I'm gonna have to tie myself to a chair and lock the door and get this out because I believe that they're important stories. So
Yep, you're reminding me though, some quote Charity sent me once, my younger sister, and I can't even pretend to get close to it, but the principle behind it was those things that are keeping you from writing
mhm,
right now are the things that will become your writing when
yep,
you write because you're living right now, you're
mhm,
learning, and it's going to come out when you have the time later. But also you remind me of that same woman who talked about that we actually have more time away from work than we think.
mhm,
Um, Laura Vanderkam, she talks about this thing called the difference between effortless fun and effortful fun.
mm,
Effortless fun is when we just sit and scroll or
mhm,
something like that on our phones. And I just feel like, Josh, your life is so effortful.
mhm,
You do so many fun things and interesting things and things that light you up, but they take effort and
mhm.
you choose to do it. And it's really inspiring.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
last segment. It worked for
Alright.
me. Is there something big or small, something that maybe led to an aha moment in your life or that regularly works for you to kind of center you or help you find or feel more meaning in life?
So I've talked about Jesus a few times here, and that'll probably be kind of where I'm gonna settle in on. One of my favorite scriptures that really pushes me is in Proverbs. This scripture that I like to hang on to, that says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight." And to me, what that helps me think about is that when I'm following after what it is that God's asked me to do, that the margins, the things on the left and the right, well, should I do this? Should I do that? Is this getting taken care of? Is this getting taken care of? Like those are the things that God makes straight. And so from a young age of knowing, okay, I'm gonna move away from my school at 17, my senior year, leave everything that's comfortable and familiar and a lot of my friends and move to a completely different school with completely different vibes. Um, I knew that God told me to do that. And so by knowing that, I was able to hang on to that faith. Now, did I truly believe that? I struggled a lot. It took me a little while to really kind of come to grips with I can look at my life now and then look at that decision and say, like, thank you, God, for the blessings that I've had because I obeyed, because I listened. The things, who knows where my life would have been had I made different decisions at that time. And so that's a thing that God's taken me through over the years, many, 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 many times, sometimes day to day, of keep your focus on Jesus and those things that you're worried about, the things that are on the left and the right, like he will take care of that. Our job is to listen and obey and his job is to bless us and to keep us at peace and to kind of keep the world spinning.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for this
Yeah,
conversation. I really appreciate you, Josh.
yeah. Thank you for having me. I really had a good time. And yeah, if you ever do repeat guests, let me know.
I am so going to do repeat guests. Definitely. Thank you.